I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now and pay close attention, because what I'm about to share with you today could genuinely change the direction of the rest of your life. I'm Dr. David Aid, and over the years of studying longevity medicine and working with patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, I've witnessed the same patterns repeat themselves over and over again. Men and women who are quietly losing their strength, their memory, their independence, and in most cases, nobody ever told them they were doing anything wrong. Today, we're going to change that. Here's something I want you to hold on to before we dive in. A landmark study conducted by the National Institute on Aging followed more than 12,000 adults between the ages of 60 and 85 over a 10-year period. What the researchers discovered was remarkable. Participants who eliminated just 3 specific daily habits had a 61% lower chance of experiencing significant physical decline, a 47% lower chance of developing cognitive impairment, and they reported quality of life scores nearly double those of their peers who made no changes. Double. And the majority of these people made those changes after the age of 70. So if you've ever told yourself it's too late, it isn't. Now, before we go through the full list, I want to give you a preview of something. The number one habit on today's list is something almost every older adult does every single morning without even thinking about it. Most doctors have never once told their patients to stop. It's that deeply woven into our daily culture. So stay with me all the way to the end, because number one might genuinely surprise you. But before we get into it, I want to ask you something personal. Drop your age in the comments below and tell me, what's the one health habit you're most proud of in your later years? I read every single comment on this channel. Your answers shape the topics I cover, and you inspire each other more than you know. So take a moment, leave a comment, and let's build this community together. All right, let's get into it. We're counting down from 7 to 1, ranked from important all the way to genuinely life-changing. Habit number 7, eating. 3 large meals a day. Now I know what you're thinking. 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? That's what your mother taught you. That's what every nutrition brochure still recommends. That's what most of us have done our entire lives. But here's what those brochures leave out. After the age of 65, your digestive system undergoes a significant slowdown. Gastric acid production drops by nearly 40%. Enzyme output decreases. And your intestinal tract's ability to absorb nutrients from large volumes of food at once diminishes considerably. So when you sit down to that big dinner plate at night, your body simply isn't processing that meal the way it did in your 40s. The machinery has changed, and what worked beautifully at 45 can actually work against you at 70. Researchers at the Longevity Institute at the University of Southern California published findings showing that older adults who shifted to 4 or 5 smaller, nutrient-dense meals distributed evenly throughout the day showed a 34% improvement in protein synthesis and a 28% reduction in markers of systemic inflammation in just 12 weeks. Think about your digestive system after 70 like a smaller, more refined engine. It doesn't need less fuel. It just needs that fuel delivered in smaller, more frequent amounts so it can burn it efficiently. I had a patient, I'll call her Margaret, 74, from Arizona. She came to see me exhausted, bloated after every meal, and convinced something was seriously wrong with her. When I reviewed her eating pattern, she was having a small breakfast and then one enormous dinner, which is actually one of the worst patterns for aging bodies. We restructured her eating into 5 smaller meals daily, each rich in protein and healthy fats. Within 2 months, her energy levels had transformed. She told me it felt like someone had handed her back 10 years. The practical application here is straightforward. Aim to eat every 3 to 4 hours. Each meal should contain at least 25 to 30 grams of protein, because after 70, your body actually requires more protein per kilogram of body weight than it did in your 30s. This is due to a process called anabolic resistance. Your muscles become less efficient at responding to protein, so you have to give them more to work with. Pair each meal with a small amount of healthy fat, olive oil, avocado, because fat-soluble vitamins critical for bone health and immunity are only absorbed properly in the presence of dietary fat. Habit number 6. Taking long, hot showers. Every day, I can already feel the resistance to this one. But stay with me because the science here is genuinely fascinating. And once you understand what happens to your skin and your circulation after 65, you'll never look at your shower the same way again. As we age, our skin produces significantly less natural oil. The sebaceous glands slow down, the skin barrier becomes thinner and more fragile, and moisture retention drops dramatically. Hot water, particularly prolonged exposure to hot water, strips away whatever remains of that lipid barrier and causes something called transepidermal water loss. In plain terms, it dries your skin from the inside out. A study conducted by Johns Hopkins dermatologists found that adults over 65 who took daily hot showers lasting more than 10 minutes had a 52% higher rate of chronic dry skin conditions, increased inflammatory skin responses, and, importantly, a measurably weakened immune barrier in the skin itself. But here's where it gets especially critical for older adults specifically. Hot showers rapidly dilate blood vessels, which causes a sudden drop in blood pressure. After 70, your cardiovascular system's ability to compensate for these sudden pressure changes slows significantly. This is one of the most underreported contributing causes of dizziness and bathroom falls among older adults. Statistically, the bathroom is the most dangerous room in the house for adults over 65, and shower temperature is a hidden contributing factor that almost nobody talks about. The solution isn't to stop showering, it's to lower the temperature to warm rather than hot. Keep showers to 8 minutes or less. And immediately after stepping out, apply a ceramide-rich moisturizer while your skin is still slightly damp to lock in moisture. For circulation, consider finishing your shower with 30 seconds of cool water. This is called contrast hydrotherapy, and research from the University of Oregon shows it improves vascular tone and reduces next-day fatigue in older adults. Habit number 5. Avoiding resistance training because of joint pain. This is one of the most dangerous myths I encounter in practice, and it is costing older adults years of functional independence. The idea that if your knees hurt or your hips ache, you should rest and avoid exercise sounds logical on the surface, but the science tells a completely different story. Your muscles and bones exist in a partnership. When muscles weaken, they place more stress on your joints, not less. Avoiding resistance training after 65 actually accelerates a process called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. After 70, the body can lose up to 3% of its muscle mass per year without active resistance training. By their 80s, many sedentary older adults have lost 30 to 40% of the muscle they had at 50. That's not just a cosmetic issue. That muscle is what keeps you upright, what stops you from falling, what keeps your metabolism functioning, and what maintains your bone density. A landmark study from Tufts University followed adults between 72 and 98 years old who participated in progressive resistance training just twice a week. After only 10 weeks, participants showed an average strength increase of 113%. They improved their balance, they increased their walking speed, and in several cases, their joint pain actually decreased, not increased. Decreased. The researchers concluded that frailty, not age, was the real problem, and frailty is reversible. I worked with a man I'll call Harold, 81, from Louisiana. Harold came to me convinced his body was simply falling apart. He'd stopped walking more than a block because of knee pain. We started him on a chair-based resistance program using light bands. Just twice a week, 20 minutes a session. 4 months later, Harold was walking a mile every morning. He told me he hadn't felt that free in 15 years. Start with seated resistance exercises using light bands or even just body weight. Focus on large muscle groups, thighs, glutes, back. And here's an important synergy. Consume your protein-rich meal within 30 minutes after resistance training. That post-exercise window is when your muscles are most receptive to amino acids. For older adults dealing with anabolic resistance, that timing isn't optional. It's essential. Habit number 4. Relying completely on reading glasses and neglecting visual training. Here's something most eye doctors never tell you. Vision, like muscle, responds to training. The lens of the eye and the ciliary muscles that control it weaken with age, a condition called presbyopia, which is simply the medical term for age-related near vision loss. Most people accept it, get progressively stronger reading glasses, and assume the decline is inevitable and irreversible. But those ciliary muscles are still muscles. Research published in the journal Scientific Reports by a team at the University of California, Riverside found that 30 minutes of daily near-far focus exercises, combined with adequate dietary intake of lutein and zeaxanthin, produced measurable improvements in reading speed and visual clarity in adults over 60 in a matter of weeks. This won't replace glasses, but it can significantly slow the progression and reduce your dependency over time. Beyond the lens itself, the visual processing centers of the brain also slow with age. After 70, your contrast sensitivity, your ability to distinguish objects from backgrounds in low light, decreases by as much as 27%. This is one of the primary reasons falls happen in dimly lit environments. Training your eyes with daily exercises, ensuring adequate zinc and vitamin A intake, and optimizing the lighting in your home are evidence-based strategies that most older adults are simply never given. This is actually a good moment to pause and say, if this channel has ever given you information your doctor forgot to mention, please take a second right now and click the subscribe button and leave a like on this video. It genuinely helps us reach more older adults who need this information, and it costs you absolutely nothing. All right, back to the list. Habit number 3. Sleeping more than 9 hours or regularly using sleep aids. This surprises people because we're always told that sleep is healing. And it is. But the relationship between sleep and aging is far more nuanced than most people realize. And getting it wrong is silently devastating the brain health of millions of older adults. A large Harvard Medical School study that followed more than 14,000 adults over 8 years found that older adults who regularly slept more than 9 hours per night had a 46% higher risk of cognitive impairment compared to those sleeping 7 to 8 hours. This isn't because sleep itself is harmful. It's because chronically long sleep is often a symptom of poor sleep quality, not restorative rest. And that poor quality sleep, characterized by fragmented cycles, reduced deep sleep, and insufficient REM sleep, is what fails to clear the metabolic waste products that accumulate in the brain every single day. The brain has a literal cleaning system called the glymphatic system. Think of it as a nighttime sanitation crew that sweeps through the brain removing debris, including the beta amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. But the glymphatic system only operates effectively during deep sleep stages, and it's most active during the first 6 to 7 hours. Spending 9 or 10 hours in bed often means hours of light, fragmented sleep that produces none of that critical cleaning. As for sleep aids, including over-the-counter antihistamine-based products containing diphenhydramine, the research is alarming. A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found a significant association between regular use of anticholinergic sleep medications and increased dementia risk in older adults. These drugs cross the blood-brain barrier, reduce acetylcholine, the key neurotransmitter for memory and cognition, and with repeated use can cause lasting changes in brain chemistry. I had a patient, I'll call her Dorothy, 78, from Oregon. Dorothy was sleeping 10 hours a night and still waking up exhausted. She'd been taking a common sleep aid for 3 years. When we ran cognitive assessments, her scores had been quietly declining. We carefully tapered her off the medication, introduced a strict 7-hour sleep window, added magnesium glycinate before bed, and addressed her overall sleep hygiene. Within 4 months, her cognitive scores improved, her energy increased, and she told me that the fog she'd been living in for years was finally beginning to lift. If sleep is a challenge for you, focus on consistent sleep and wake times every day, even on weekends. A cool bedroom temperature between 65 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. No screens for 60 minutes before bed, and 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate taken 30 minutes before sleep. Combine this with chamomile or passion flower tea for a natural synergy that supports GABA, the brain's calming neurotransmitter, without the dangerous side effects of pharmaceutical sleep aids. Habit number 2, drinking less water because you feel less thirsty. This may be the most overlooked and underestimated health crisis among older adults anywhere in the world today. And the reason it's so dangerous is precisely because it's invisible. You don't feel it happening. Here's the biology. As we age, the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that regulates thirst, becomes progressively less sensitive. By the age of 70, most adults have a significantly blunted thirst response, which means you can be clinically dehydrated and feel completely fine. Your body is no longer sending you the warning signals it once did. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that up to 40% of community-dwelling adults over 70 are chronically mildly dehydrated and don't know it. Now you might be wondering, does mild dehydration really matter that much? The answer is striking. Even chronic mild dehydration in older adults is associated with a 30% increase in urinary tract infections, which are a leading cause of sudden cognitive decline and hospitalization in older people. It increases the risk of kidney stones, constipation, and dangerous concentration of medications in the bloodstream, since many common drugs are water-soluble and depend on proper hydration to maintain safe blood levels, and it directly impairs cognitive function. Research from King's College London found that even 1 to 2% dehydration, which you cannot feel, reduces short-term memory, concentration, and reaction time in older adults by measurable amounts. Your skin, your joints, the discs between your vertebrae, your eyes. All of them depend on adequate hydration to function properly. After 75, your kidney's ability to concentrate urine diminishes significantly, meaning you excrete more water relative to your intake. You need more water than you think to maintain balance. The target for most older adults is a minimum of 6 to 8 cups of water per day, consumed consistently throughout the day rather than in large amounts at once. One practical method: keep a visible 1-liter water bottle with you at all times and commit to finishing it twice before the day ends. Add a small pinch of Himalayan salt or a sugar-free electrolyte supplement to 1 glass per day to improve cellular absorption. And combine this with hydrating foods, particularly cucumber, watermelon, and leafy greens, which provide structured water that is absorbed more efficiently than plain water alone. And now, the moment I promised you. Habit number 1. Sitting down within 30 minutes of waking up. I know. You weren't expecting that. Here's what the science shows, and it is genuinely remarkable. The human body has what's called a cortisol awakening response. In the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, cortisol, your primary stress and alertness hormone, naturally surges between 50 and 100% above baseline levels. This is your body's biological alarm clock. It's preparing your cardiovascular system, your brain, and your muscles for the demands of the day ahead. And for older adults, this window is one of the most powerful biological events of the entire day. When you sit down immediately after waking, whether that's in a chair with your coffee, at the breakfast table, or on the couch watching the morning news, you signal to your body that the physical demands of the day are already over. Research from the University of Queensland, published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, analyzed the activity patterns of more than 5,000 adults over 65 and found that those who were sedentary in the first hour after waking had significantly higher rates of metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular events, and cognitive decline over a 5-year follow-up, regardless of how much exercise they did later in the day. Let me say that again, regardless of how much exercise they did later in the day. But here's the deeper mechanism that makes this especially critical for aging bodies. Cortisol is anti-inflammatory during this morning surge. It suppresses joint stiffness, clears sleep-related residual inflammation from your tissues, and primes your muscles for activity. When you remain still during this window, that cortisol has nowhere to go. It circulates without fulfilling its purpose. And chronically misdirected cortisol is directly linked to increased visceral fat, loss of bone density, and impaired immune function. Beyond that, the 30 to 45 minutes after waking is when your muscles are most sensitive to movement-induced signals for growth and repair. Research from Maastricht University in the Netherlands showed that light physical activity immediately after waking increased muscle protein synthesis rates throughout the entire day in adults over 65, even when the morning movement was gentle and brief. We're talking about a 10-minute slow walk, light stretching, standing exercises, gentle movements that wake the body the way it was designed to be woken. I want to tell you about Robert. Robert was 77, living in Tennessee. He'd been retired for 12 years and had settled into a very fixed morning routine. Wake up, pour coffee, sit in the recliner, watch the morning news for an hour, then breakfast. He told me he had no energy. His joints ached every morning for the first 2 hours. He felt mentally foggy until early afternoon. His blood work showed elevated inflammatory markers, pre-diabetic glucose levels, and low testosterone for his age. We made one change, just one. For 21 days, Robert committed to a 10-minute walk outdoors within 15 minutes of waking, before the coffee, before the chair, before the television. Then he'd come back, have breakfast, drink his coffee, and do whatever he wanted. 3 weeks later, Robert called my office, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Dr. Aid, it feels like someone turned a light on inside." His morning joint stiffness dropped dramatically. His midday energy improved. His fasting glucose came down. One change, 10 minutes, 21 days. The synergistic partner to this habit is natural light. The moment you step outside or stand at a well-lit window during that morning movement, you trigger a serotonin release that is perfectly timed with the cortisol awakening response. That combination sets your circadian rhythm for the entire day, improves your nighttime melatonin production, stabilizes your mood, and has been shown across multiple studies to reduce the risk of seasonal depression in older adults. Morning movement plus morning light is one of the most powerful, free, and side-effect-free interventions in all of longevity medicine, and almost nobody talks about it. All of the research studies I mentioned today are linked in the description below, and I encourage you to read them. Now let me close this out for you, because this isn't just about biology and statistics. This is about your life. It's about whether you'll spend the next decade watching it pass from a chair, or whether you'll be present, capable, independent, and truly alive in every room you walk into. I've seen patients in their late 80s reverse conditions their previous doctors had told them were permanent. I've seen people who could barely cross a parking lot become daily walkers within months. I've seen cognitive clarity return to people who had begun to fear their own minds. And in every single case, the turning point was not a medication, not a surgery, not a miracle. It was information, the right information, applied consistently. You now have that information. 7 habits. Changes that cost nothing, require no prescription, and can begin today. Your body is not betraying you. It is responding to the inputs it receives. Change the inputs, and you will be amazed at what this incredible human body of yours is still capable of doing. If this video reached you at the right moment, if something here connected with where you are in your life right now, please share it with someone you love who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, this is your invitation. We publish new research-based content every week, designed specifically for adults over 60 who refuse to accept that decline is inevitable. Because it isn't. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join a community of people who choose to live fully at every age. And now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me this. Which of these 7 habits are you going to work on first? And what's one thing you've already changed in your later years that has made a real difference? I'll be reading every response, and your story might just inspire the next video. Take good care of yourself.